to, thank you, Ray. I'd like to introduce our two speakers for today. This session is going to be a little bit different. Our speakers today are Liv Cummins, and she is a professor at Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but she is a resident of the Berkshires and knows our community well. She graduated from Skidmore College and also did graduate work at the Tisch School of the Arts in a program in musical theater writing. And she has written the book and lyrics for musicals that have been produced across the country. And she teaches in the theater program at Lesley University. Her partner today is Rob Hartman, who is coming to us from Denmark. Rob has come from the farthest away. We do have some participants from Hawaii, so they may outdistance you. Rob and Liv have worked together in creating a musical, Vanishing Point, about Amelia Earhart. Sorry, don't know why I'm not speaking very clearly today. So work together on a play, Vanishing Point, about Amelia Earhart. Liv specializes in writing plays and musicals in particular about women who may be underappreciated and less well known. That play has been produced across the United States and also in a Spanish translation in Madrid, Spain. Rob Hartman has taught for 15 years at NYU's School for Graduate Program in Theater Studies. He's also been a composer in residence with an organization, America in Play. And he has worked in London, Norway, and Denmark, and is currently in residence in Denmark. I would also mention that Liv has founded a not-for-profit to support the arts in Columbia County, across the border from us in New York State, and contributes to that on a regular basis, including a live Saturday Night Live program, that plays on to benefit the Columbia Arts team. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our two speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Well, Rob and I are just thrilled to be here. And we are really excited to talk today with you about our wonderful, ambitious risk takers of our suffragists and the songs that they sang and why they sang them. And Rob and I appear today specifically, we want to clarify, we are musical theater dramatists. And so we write musicals. And as Catherine said, we have a special interest in historical women. So Rob and I are working currently on our third musical about suffragists. We were specifically inspired by the 1913 March in Washington, D.C., specifically the pageant at the march, which was the pinnacle of the event. That's what brought us and inspired us to write a musical that we're currently writing about suffragists. So today we'll talk about suffragists and songs and protest songs in particular from our unique perspectives as musical theater writers, not as historians. Rob will bring us into what we'll talk about today.
So we'll start off with a little bit of how Liv and I work together, musicalizing history, and we'll actually play you a song in a short while. And then we're going to get into different songs that were types of songs that were used or in and around the suffrage movement, and we'll go into those types. And then we are, as a group, going to write a song together. So if you want to take part in that, and of course it's completely voluntary, but it's handy to have a pencil around, maybe a Post-it note, something to jot your ideas down. And at different points during this presentation, we'll ask you to jot some ideas down, and then we'll put them all together. And at the end, we'll sort of wrap up and have time for questions. All right, so we'll get into what do musical theater writers, what do musical theater dramatists do? And you might be familiar with Yip Harburg, who was probably best known as the lyricist for the film The Wizard of Oz, Over the Rainbow and all those great songs. And he had a quote that we both love, which is, "Words make you think a thought, music makes you feel a feeling, songs make you feel a thought." And that's true of songs and musicals, maybe songs everywhere, but specifically songs and musicals. It makes the audience feel a thought, connects you with the characters, desire what they want. It gets you to root for the character, embrace their point of view, and you want them to succeed and empathize with their plight. Now, when we started doing research for the show that we're working on currently, we noticed that the songs do the same thing, which is they were using the songs to get the audiences, the many kinds of audiences that they were addressing, to empathize with what they were after, to make them feel something, to make them feel that thought.
Thanks, Rob. And in our research for the suffragists and in that time period, we came upon this quote, which I think really speaks to a lot of what Rob was just talking about. On June 15th, 1911, the New York Times published a story about suffragists in Los Angeles who were holding a public rally. Police informed the women that votes for women speeches were prohibited at the rally. To circumvent the ordinance, the suffragists set those suffrage speeches to music, and they sang their message instead. So to us, that was just such a brilliant sort of example of how the suffragists at that time were in fact keenly adept at using music, theater, and spectacle to translate their message in order to persuade the public of what they wanted them to think about suffrage and equality. So they, in fact, were doing the same thing, as Rob said, that we do as musical theater writers. They made, through song, they made their audiences feel a thought and empathize with their plight. So musical theater writers like Rob and myself, we musicalize history in our case when we turn history into musicals, when we're inspired by historical figures. So we want to take a few minutes to explore what that means. What does it mean when we musicalize history? And for us, it means that we're looking for the emotional truth of a character. So as musical theater dramatists, we, no matter what story we're telling, we use the tools of drama, music, theater, spectacle, to put on a show. We're entertaining, we're engaging, we're putting on a show. But how do we do that differently when we think about historical characters and we actually want to capture the essence and reality that really happened? So as Catherine mentioned earlier, Rob and I do share a passion for historical women in particular, and risk takers, adventurous women, like our suffragists that we're writing about now. We're currently writing our third piece about the suffragists, but when we write about history, we always begin with research. In fact, a lot of times for us, it's hard to move away from the research and actually get to the writing part because we get so excited. We become immersed in the time period, the context, the setting, our historical women. But then when we begin to write, we really look for the emotional core of a person, and we develop their character and all the events that happen around them based around the essence of who they really were. What were they after? What drove them? What obstacles did they face? We look for cause and effect and how things unfolded, starting with the essence of who they were, the emotional core. And we tell that story in song. so that audiences empathize, so that they feel a thought, and ultimately so that they gain new understanding about that historical person that maybe they thought they knew when they walked into the theater. So we believe as musical theater dramatists that our art form is uniquely positioned to probe the human condition, and get at all of our contradictions, all of our faults and frailties, through song, because things don't always make sense intellectually, right? We may say we want this, but we do the opposite. But they make sense emotionally. There's kind of an emotional truth there. That's what we're after. So in the musical that Catherine was just referencing, that Rob and I wrote, called Vanishing Point, we were speaking now of a historical person that we all probably think we know, Amelia Earhart. And we'd like to share an example in a few minutes of a song from our show, which was a song that Amelia sings, that we crafted specifically to help audiences feel a thought and thus see Amelia, in this case, differently. Our musical Vanishing Point explores the lives of not one adventurous historical woman, but three. So author Agatha Christie vanished for 11 days in 1926. That same year, evangelist Amy Semple McPherson vanished for 3 weeks. Amelia Earhart disappeared during her 1937 round-the-world flight. She was never seen again. Agatha and Amy, though, reappeared, but they never spoke again of what happened during their disappearances. So our musical tells the stories of what led up to the disappearances of these three women, and we imagine what might have happened if they had all disappeared to the same place at the same time, the vanishing point. So we look for, when we talk about Amelia Earhart and the song you're about to hear, we were looking for her emotional core. So what drove her more than anything, or in this case, what flew her, if you will. And we love this quote. This was at the emotional core of Amelia for us. "Adventure is worthwhile in itself," she said. And that really speaks to a lot of kind of public kind of criticism that she faced later on that Rob will get to in a moment. But this is what drove her, and our show really highlights the obstacles she faced that stopped her from flying as much as, or in all the ways that she wanted, including cultural expectations of women at the time. So the song you're about to hear falls under a category in musical theater called I Am songs. So these kinds of songs announce, here's who I am, here's what I want, here's the emotional core of who I am and why I do what I do. To audiences feel a thought through these songs. They empathize, they can share the character's perspective, and that carries them with the character throughout the whole show. These songs usually appear at the beginning of the show, and they set the scene for all that the character will face as we go along. If you think about songs like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, these are classic I Am songs from shows that you might be familiar with.
So the song, which is called When I'm the Wind, what's interesting about it, as Leif said, in a lot of shows, especially like the Disney musicals, you'll hear an I am or I want song at the beginning. And this song actually comes at the end. It's where she has finally reached her fullest understanding of herself. So let's move on to the next slide there. So, and again, why we're looking at this as an example is partly because we're going to show you, in a way, how we take a broader text and boil it down into lyric. When we start talking about the songs from the suffrage movement, you'll see how they would take a broad idea that you might have in a speech and boil it down into one idea. So this is a beginning example of this. So this is from a eulogy that Walter Lippmann wrote. Amelia Earhart went missing July 5th, 1937, and this was published a few days later when she was presumed dead. And this is a selection. One of the things that he wrote was, "The best things of mankind are as useless as Amelia Earhart's adventure. They have in them the free and useless energy with which alone men surpass themselves. Such energy cannot be planned and managed and made purposeful or weighed by the standards of utility. or judged by its social consequences. It is wild and it is free. And he goes on to say, all the heroes, the saints and the seers, the explorers and the creators partake of it. They do not know what they discover. They do not know where their impulse is taking them. They can give no account in advance of where they're going or explain completely where they have been. They have been possessed for a time with an extraordinary passion. And if you look to the right, you'll see some of the lyrics from the song, which you're about to hear, and the lyrics are on the video of the song, so you'll be able to follow along there. But if you can see just how this full paragraph condensed down into this core idea. So that's something, this idea of distillation into a core idea of a lyric is something that we'll be getting into in just a moment with the suffrage songs. But now, why don't we watch and listen to the video.
When I fly, I don't care how much it costs. I don't care if my picture will be in the paper. There's nothing I want, nothing I need. That's when I am the wind. Oh, when I fly, I don't care where I go. There is no end in sight. When I am the wind, every part of me is working. I feel nothing and everything. I move in all directions. I forget about my senses. A minute is forever. It's clear, and I can finally see when I am the wind. All the heroes, the saints and the seers, the explorers and the creators have this extraordinary passion. We do not know what we'll discover. We can't say where we're going or explain completely where we've been. But our adventures give the world something to dream about, something to believe in. And if one day someone looks to the stars and wonders what she sees, she'll feel the breeze. That's when I am the wind. The wind.
Great. So we will move back into our slides here. So in that example of Amelia's song, you've seen how we dig in to find that essential expression, as Rob said, of a message to help audiences feel a thought. So we boil it down to that one core idea. And now we're going to take a look at how the suffragists did that. Notice that the lyrics in that song, as we saw on the slide to the right of the Lippmann eulogy, were very compact, so very short lines and not that many lines. So songs really thrive when there's room in the lyric for the music to take over, right? So we don't want lyric to dominate in a song. Instead, the music is really the driving force. So keep this in mind, and we'll be writing short lines and short phrases in our work coming up in a few minutes. So the word protest, I do want to stop here for a moment. The word protest is a bit of a misnomer when it comes to suffrage protest songs, in the sense that we might rather think of them as persuasion songs, songs of persuasion, because they were really advocating for something, right? They're arguing for something, not saying what they were against. So that's an interesting thing to think about when we think about the songs that the suffragists sang. We'll be looking at 3 types of suffrage songs today. They each have different audiences and goals for each kind of song that they sang. We'll be looking at 3 types today. The first is rally songs, which were sung at rallies, marches, protests. And the second type we'll be looking at today are community songs. And this was songs that they sang with each other at conferences and meetings. And then finally, we'll take a look at parlor songs, which were songs written and sold to be sung in the home, which was a common practice then. People had their upright pianos and they would all sing along together in their houses.
All right, so the first type we're talking about are rally songs. And these are songs that, as Liv said, were sung at rallies, at marches, at protests, where they're singing to the quote unquote outside world, to those who needed to be persuaded. And most often, these were lyrics that were written to existing like well-known tunes. So they songs that at the time they would assume that everyone would know. So if you came to be in a march, they would hand you something like this, something like the Equal Suffrage Song sheaf. And you would look at the lyrics and you could all sing together because you already knew the tunes. So we'll just go through a few examples that we pulled out. Let's see here. So this one, which is in that song sheaf, it's called Votes for Women, Sure to Win. The tune is Yankee Doodle. So you didn't know you were coming to a concert? Here we go. I'm gonna sing a little bit for you. All right. So it happened once in England fair that woman's mind got started on thinking suffrage rights her share from her unjustly parted, that laws and taxes she should heed in which she had no say, sir. To hear fair thought seemed false indeed, she cried, we'll not obey, sir. And the chorus, which of course everyone would join in with, votes for women, keep it up, never mind what party. Votes for women, sure to win, sing it strong and hearty. Thank you so much. I'm sure there's roaring applause throughout the land around the globe. Let's see, what's the next one here? Yes, so this, if you know When Johnny Comes Marching Home, I'm actually not going to sing this one, but actually something to note, Liv, can you click back to the previous slide there? So something that we're going to get into, if you look at that middle bit where it's noted chorus, and this is something you may already know, but you know the particular kind of that core of the song, generally it's known as the chorus, where that is the central idea and that's where it's planted. So the bit before is known as the verse, and it builds up to this central idea. And if you notice, the title of this song, they've called it Votes for Women, Sure to Win. And you can see there, it's a 4-line chorus. Lines 1 and 3, they match. Votes for women, keep it up. Votes for women, sure to win. And in the chorus, you'll find most often that the title, if it's in the song at all, it's the first line. Sometimes it's the last line. So either it's something like, you can imagine an essay, a persuasive essay. Here's what it's about. And here's everything that builds up to it.
A headline.
Or a headline. And then conversely, sometimes it's build, 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 conclusion. So if you can move back to the next one. So this is When Woman Comes to Her Own. And you can see, just like When Johnny Comes Marching Home, where, you know, if you're singing the original lyric, that is the last line of the chorus. And same thing here. This actually, it has a variant in the first line, When Woman Comes Marching to Her Own, hurrah, hurrah, goes through, and it arrives at the central idea, When Woman Comes to Her Own. All right, let's take a look at that. So this is, you had not only ones which were fairly serious, but suffragists had a sense of humor as well. And very often they would publish, you can see original songs, parodies. and we'll get into some of these which are parodies. And in looking at this, it sort of reminded me of, if you're familiar with Randy Rainbow, who creates videos on YouTube and other things with political parody lyrics written to current songs. So here's some things in here. So this one is pretty great. I think it's called Mad Men Are Fools, to the tune of Auld Lang Syne. And this one, it takes the entire song to build to the what they've made the title. So if you look down, the words are very small, but if you can see the final chorus, a madman or a fool or both, a madman or a fool, makes each and every one of them a madman or a fool. Basically, this song goes through all the things that, actually, I love this first line. Some things that wear the shapes of men have never known their place. They think that God has given them all wisdom, power, and grace. And it builds all the way through there. Let's take a look at the next one here. And three blind men, three blind mice, three blind men, see how they stare, see how they stare. They each ran off with a woman's right, and they each went blind in a single night. Did you ever behold such a gruesome sight as these blind men? So what's interesting,
at my next party.
yeah, and I think, you know, very often, if people haven't really dug into history, I think there's this preconception, this idea that people didn't joke around in the way, you know, that we do. Like, you know, every era has its humor. And digging into this, there's some very funny lyrics as you go through. All right, so here we are at our first writing exercise. So grab your pencil, grab your keyboard. So here's what we're going to ask you to do. It's two parts. One is think of a cause that you're passionate about. And for the purposes of this, it can be something very serious. It can be something maybe more humorous if you're in the mood for that. The other day, we were running through this as a practice, and we wrote a song about cats demanding to be fed, which is an important issue to the cat.
They do that, yes.
Yeah. So whatever cause means most to you. So just call that up to your mind. And also with these exercises, you know, obviously this is something you can share or not. So just do whatever first comes to your mind. And then when you've got that in your mind, you're thinking about what's that chord line. And we think about it like, what would be the thing you would write on your t-shirt? What's the thing you put on the sign when you go to the rally? What's the message? All right.
Just that core message. Think about those slogans that you've seen on signs at any rally for any cause. That's really what we're looking for. But sometimes these exercises are great to just don't worry about what you're writing or what ideas. Try to spend the whole 30 seconds actually writing, and you'll discover what you're thinking about. And so 3, 2, 1, go.
And sometimes it helps if you just put pen or pencil to paper, just let the ideas flow. Go with your first instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I think I can see the chat here. Yeah, interesting. Cool.
We still have time. Wait, I can't see the chat. Where's my? Oh
yeah. It's interesting. There's one shared, and I think it's shared just with us. And Joanne, I will share a bit of this. It says, homeless, I walk alone, no one cares. Who might help me today? Do not look away, see me. And it actually puts me in mind of a very powerful song that Yip Harburg wrote the lyrics for, which is Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? Which was, you know, really like one of the perhaps defining songs of the Depression. And it's perhaps second to his work for The Wizard of Oz. That is probably what he's best known for. He actually had a very strong sense of social responsibility and the use of song to create social change. And Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? I actually get choked up thinking about that song. because
Yeah.
it's so powerful.
And Rob, I don't know if you said this just now or if you noticed it, but someone actually mentioned that earlier in the chat.
Oh, I didn't see it earlier. Yeah. Well,
Gail
good. Yes.
bring that up. So nice connection.
Yeah.
If others would like to share what you wrote now, please do so in the chat. We'd love to see other ideas. We won't be judging your ideas, and you won't be competing for the car that someone might win.
And we will return to these ideas. We'll build on them as we go through. So whether you share now, there's going to be an opportunity later as well. Oh,
Oh,
great.
these
Oh,
are
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, some really great.
Mm, wow. These are really great.
Save the earth for my grandchildren. Excellent. It's the era for the
Era
ERA.
for the ERA. I love that. Oh, these are fantastic. Color doesn't matter. Thanks, Joanna.
Fantastic.
Wow.
You take my breath away. Yeah.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Someone earlier said, get your knee off my neck. Very powerful.
Yeah, these are really fantastic. Thank you.
All right, great. So we're going to return to these in the next phase. We're going to build this up piece by piece. All right, so let's move along.
Great. So we will move on to another type of song. And these are community songs. And community songs were really meant to share and reinforce one another's views, kind of to reinforce the group identity. If you will, a "We Are" song, right? So we heard the "I Am" song before of Amelia's. And these are "We Are" songs, sometimes written and sung by amateurs, not even published. These were, again, sung at conferences, meetings, congresses. They were really meant to provide group emotional support. So looking inward, giving hope, inspiration to the group. Let's keep fighting. You know, what's our cause? Look what we've done. Building social bonds. And group singing, interestingly, in our research, group singing was a common part of these events. And it still is, if you think about a lot of these events that we think of now and rallies. Music is always a part of it, and usually the whole group that's attending would sing whatever it is. But they might sing songs that they already knew, or there could be a new one, like the one you're seeing here. Words and music composed by Pauline Russell Brown. And it says here, for public meetings, conventions, entertainments, or vaudeville. And I love this song, sung at the Indiana State Convention of the Women's Franchise League in Indianapolis in May 1913. So that's only 2 months after the huge DC march in that year, which was the biggest women's suffrage march up to that point.
And you'll notice it's self-published as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
I noticed that. Yeah. And I also love that words and music are composed by Pauline, a woman. Another one here, Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and she was actually a known, a big figure in the movement at that time. So we will, the song you're about to hear, I think we have, right, is called actually Suffrage Song, Let Us Sing As We Go. But I'm going to skip back. I'll just hold on this for a minute. And the music to this song, I don't know, you can kind of, yeah, I think you can see it up there, was written by Eleanor Smith. And you will see her, we're going to play this song for you in a video with visuals. You're going to see her picture at the end of the video that's about to play. And I think it's a good, important point to note that even today, women composers are far less represented in all fields of music. And so it's important that we mark as we go along kind of other ways that we see equality for women happening or not happening. So we'll take a pause here, and Ray will hopefully, we'll take a look at the video and hear this song.
Let us sing as we go, votes for women. Let us sing as we go, votes for women. Though the way may be hard, though the battle be long, yet our triumph is sure. Put your heart into song, into cheering and song. Votes for women, for the right shall prevail over wrong. See the banner is bright, streaming o'er us, and the barn door lies open before us. Let the trumpet be blown, let our purpose be known. Put your voice and your soul in the chorus. Let us sing as we go, votes for women. Let us sing as we go, votes for women. There's a voice we have heard and shall hear till we die. By His word we are stirred, and as one we reply, it is thy, votes for women. For the right shall prevail over wrong. For the fears of the past lie behind us, and dissenters no longer can bind us. Let us march with a will till the trumpet be still, when the peace that the struggle shall find us. Let us sing as we go, votes for women. Let us sing as we go, votes for women. Though the way may be hard, though the battle be long, yet the triumph is sure. Put your heart into song, into cheering and song. Votes for women, for the right shall prevail over wrong.
I love how we close up on the phrase there in the music. Yeah, I mean, I just want to note, we'll jump back to our slides here. Such a powerful, don't you just want to sing along? It took everything I had to restrain myself because there's that lag in Zoom, so I didn't want to really embarrass myself. But votes for women, let us sing as we go, votes for women. That's so hooky. You only have to hear it once. You'll be singing it all the way out the door after the rally, after the meeting you just had. And it's inspiring. I mean, I think it just speaks to what we just said a moment ago, that power of music to really, if you were down before you went to this meeting, maybe you just lost one of the many battles that take place in this, overarching war that they're trying to win for suffrage. This song is going to lift you up. It's going to carry you over. You need the power of the music and that one phrase. Let us sing as we go, votes for women. We're going to keep singing. We're going to keep fighting. Is really powerful. And you
It's
can
the us, let us.
let us, right?
Exactly.
The we are song. Let
Mhm.
us. And I love that. The language is simple, super easy to understand, and very short lines. Once again, like a slogan, like what was that sign kind of on your t-shirt? The other thing, oh yeah, Rob. Mhm.
So I think, yeah, if you go to the next slide, I think we have the lyrics up so you can see.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, it's easier to see on the, yeah.
Mhm.
So I think if we just take a look at some of the middle, as Rob said before about the titles of these songs, they often appear at the beginning. Here's the one, and then they're going to give us the reasons why. So let us sing as we go, votes for women. Though the way may be hard, though the battle be long, yet our triumph is sure. Put your heart into song, into cheering. The right will prevail over wrong. So what's interesting here too is that, and in the video we just saw some of the visual, we see some of the medieval imagery that the suffragists were really, again, going back to the idea of how adept they were at using music and spectacle and theater to really persuade us of their message. It was really common in the whole suffrage period that we're looking at, for them to dress up in medieval costumery. We see it in that 1913 march. We see it in the poster image, which is the cover of the program from the 1913 DC march that is being used for this series through Ollie. That's the trump. They're blowing the trumpet. They're wearing the vests of armor, and they have their sword and shield. this imagery has been co-opted to help the public at the time really kind of it's fun. It's not threatening. It's not threatening in the way that it would have been had they dressed up in actual army uniforms and military uniforms of the time. So if we translate that today, it's still being it's an interesting, important visual message that they were trying to send. This is a battle. And we're in it for the long haul. We're going to win the war. But they also, I think, adeptly combined it with very feminine imagery of the flowing robes, the flowing white garb that other women would wear. So they were really keenly adept at sort of combining those elements of the past, the future, the contemporary and the classical, to really suggest this kind of hybrid, a new vision of womanhood, right? So the mosaic of womanhood, that we could be anything. We can be maybe masculine imagery, feminine imagery, but we're going to ultimately create our own idea of ourselves. This is the second lyric here of this song. There's a voice we have heard and shall hear till we die, but its word we are stirred, and as one we reply, it is nigh, vote for women. So that there's this constant message here, like we're in this for the long haul. We're gonna hear this till we die. We're in this. This is a battle. This is a war. I love the language here of this section. For the fears of the past lie behind us, and its fetters no longer can bind us. Let us march with a will. Let the trumpet be still in the peace that our struggle shall find us. So beautiful, really simple lyric, but important kind of battle war imagery. We're going to all sing this together. It's the We Are song. And we've come to our second writing exercise. So for this song, as opposed to thinking about the first exercise, you wanted to really write a slogan on your t-shirt that would persuade others. That first song was really important to think about as a rally songs. We're persuading, we're out there to convince you that our message is right and that we all need to believe in it and we all need to make it happen, right? Here, though, we want to think about a slogan or an idea that's going to bind us together. It's we all share this identity. We all share the cause. What's that thing that you would write on your t-shirt or on a sign, like the one we just heard, votes for women, let us sing. It's something we already all agree with. So it's less of persuading than it is, let's inspire each other. Let's urge us on to the cause if we were feeling down about whatever it was and the cause really being able to happen. Rob, would you like to add anything?
I just want to just pull out a question that I saw in the chat, which is from Dale. It says, the choice of what to wear and how to present themselves do not exist within the lyric and melody, do they? Well, actually, I think it's something where you see one inspires the other, because, you know, that song has a very processional feel to it. It's got sort of a high-minded inspirational tone. So the things kind of grew together, you know, the use of this imagery, the creation of music like that. So I think it's just that one is inspiring the other. The whole movement, things are being, you know, created. Visual inspires music, music inspires visual. But I think with this, it's just as Leif said, you know, it's what is the phrase that we say to each other in the group that will inspire us to keep on fighting.
Great.
So yeah.
And we'll take about 30 seconds, just write anything that comes into your mind and feel free to post it in the chat when you'd like to.
Yes, we all can breathe the same air. Don't be lax, get your vax. we have to meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Let us build the future together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Change now, breathe later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're all in this together. Come join our mighty chorus. Lend your voices now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this goes, you know, as all of them do, it goes back to the idea of feeling a thought. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a thing that happens sometimes when you look at lyric on the page. Sometimes it can seem thin, and there's an important difference, you know, between lyric and poetry. Poetry that's meant to be read. You know, some poetry, of course, is spoken, but lyric particularly, and Liv said this earlier, lyric leaves room for the music
Mm-hmm.
so that it sort of inflates, it rises, and then they become sort of inextricably bound.
Mm-hmm.
And that a great lyric and a great melody fuse together to where you can't think of one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can, you know, if you look at a lyric to a song that you know and you're like, yes, you almost can't even read it aloud, you have to sing it. And when you hear a melody to a song that you know and you're like, yes, that is the word, it's bound to it. And that's really the art of songwriting.
Yeah, that's perfectly put, Rob. I think it's interesting.
So, just a question, I think, which is saying, yes, I think the chat is coming just to us, but it's not going to, I don't believe it's going to the entire group. So we are, I think we are, that is what we were reading is from the chat. Yes, I should have made that clear.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, you can't see these. These are great. Voices for voices for generations. Vote with your feet. Vote in the streets. These are great.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah, just to add to what you were saying before, Rob, about the marriage between lyric and music. Some people find it strange when I might say, you know, I'm a lyricist on whatever musical we're working on, book, and I'm not writing the music for that one. They might find it strange if I say, you know, music is the most important element of a musical. But I really believe that because, in fact, if we can't, as Rob said, if we can't really feel that music, and I'm feeling a thought through the song, through the melody, through the harmonics, through the changes, then I'm really not going to connect with any of the words. The words it just don't matter. So music gives power to the words. I would just add, and we're seeing here. This is great. A country created by all, a country welcoming all.
Fair maps, quit pandering to gerrymandering. Nice.
Oh, okay. Dale
Martin.
is helpfully telling us how to make everyone be able to see these.
So that's, I think that's if you are writing in the chat, you choose, there's a little thing that says to, and if it just says panelists,
Oh
then
yeah,
we get
right.
it, but you can,
Mhm.
and of course that's up to you whether you want to share with the entire group or
Yes.
just for our eyes. But this is really lovely, I have to say. Both Liv and I teach songwriting seminars like this, and this is my first time actually doing something over Zoom in this way, and it's really great. So shall we move on to the next?
Let's move on to our final, perhaps most exciting example of.
The most exciting, we'll see. So yeah, so this is Parlor Songs, and of course, they were meant to be sung in the parlor, you know, sort of the older term for the living room. And, you know, before there was, you know, the advent of radio, recorded sound, all those things, you know, people, most especially women, were expected to be able to sing, play. This is how you would entertain the family at home. And there was a big industry selling songs. You would go to the music store in the way that in later years you would go and pick out a 45. You know, you would go and pick out a song. And here we're, and I will say too, this is basically where capitalism enters the chat, and people are out to make a buck. So, and there were things that, you know, when people were selling this, you know, that they were on both sides in the sense of they were ready to write and pump out a song and sell it to whoever. So you have things like, it's the wrong way to tickle Mary. Okay. a takeoff on It's a Long, Long Way to Tipperary. The Anti-Suffrage Rose, which was putting a lot of the anti-suffragist thoughts. When Helen Casts Her Ballot, Wifey is a Real Suffragette. I mean, so many of these songs are like, oh, and the Suffragette One Step. So as we were talking about the audiences for these, the first one was the people that you're, rallying against, the people who are watching the parades and so on. The second is for the group. And, these songs had it was a twofold thing. One is to the buying public, very often, women who were going to, buy them. So these were also sung by vaudeville performers. That's how they were sort of disseminated to the public. You would hear someone sing it. People attended vaudeville in the way that, modern people would, contemporary people like us would go to the movies. You'd go to the vaudeville once a week or so. So then one of the songs which sort of became most well known is what we'll dig into a bit more, which is called She's Good Enough to Be Your Baby's Mother, and She's Good Enough to Vote With You. So we've looked at the various audiences in terms of, and the one before was us, and this one is you, meaning the husbands, the men in the audience. And Liv, do you want to say something about the image on the...
Yeah, I think it's important to note, and this is a male songwriting team, which is also important. So as Rob said, these are not women suffragists, writing songs and to put their message across. This is any Joe Schmo or any person.
Yeah, exactly. These guys, I think this was their only suffrage-related song, and it was actually at an intersection of, there was also a fad for songs about mother and father, saying, dear old dad.
Yeah.
If you know the old song MOTHER, that's, kind of, they're like, aha, we can write something which is both, the fad and also what's in the news.
Yeah, so they were speaking because, as Rob said, the audience here is husbands, or in particular, husbands who are not also suffragists, because we should know many men shared in the suffrage cause and fought for suffrage. But these are the guys who, my wife doesn't need to vote. I vote for us. I vote for the family. That was a common anti-suffrage argument. And so here, because the husband is the target, right? So they're speaking to the husband. Look at the lovely image of this is a lovely, beautiful mother, dressed in a really lovely dress, like belted at the middle. She's got her hair done. It looks like she's wearing makeup, and she's got her really beautiful child. And so look, hubby, she's good enough to be your baby's mom. She can vote with you, can't she? So that's kind of the message here. And because, as Rob said, they would be singing all this at home as families. Hey, maybe it did work on them over time. We don't know.
So the next you'll see, again, this is, so the next slide.
And
yeah, so here we go. Like, this was a typical publisher's ad where, this is where, again, this is, they're out to make some profit. They don't really care about the politics of it. Some other songs, here's our other songs. You could buy this one, The Sweetest Girl in Monterey. You could buy In the Valley of the Nile. And, this one, which is a novel argument on the great question of the day, of vital interest to every woman. Okay.
and
it's...
and it's only of interest to women. Men don't have interest.
It was picked up, and so again, we hit on this one because it was well known. A lot of the vaudeville singers sang it, and it's something where, depending on how you sing it or how you do it, you can either do it with a wink like or you can be genuine about it, which is, again, they're trying to skate both sides to sell to as many people as possible.
They can have a hit. Yeah, exactly. And are we one more thing? We'll go now to the video so we can hear this song and see it. But the one thing I just want to note along the line of what Rob just said about how you could sing it and how it would be taken. I think it's important to note that when we think about these different kinds of songs, it's not only audience that matters for the perspective of the writer, but also context, right? So we can sing and hear this song now and 100 years later and have a completely different sense about what this song means, what the title means. But people hearing it now and singing it then, context is everything, and the time period when that fight was actually going on and people really felt these things strongly before the change, before our 100 years have passed, felt quite differently. So it's important to note that's always important in history. Context is everything. And we'll go now to the video of "She's Good Enough to Be Your Baby's Mother. She's good enough to vote with you."
No man is greater than his mother. No man is half so good. No man is better than the wife he loves. Her love will guide him, whatever betide him.
No man is greater than his mother. No man is half so good. No man is better than the wife he loves. Her love will guide him, whatever beguile him. She's good enough to love you and adore you. She's good enough to bear your troubles for you. And if your tears were falling today, nobody else would kiss them away. She's good enough to warm your heart with kisses when you are lonesome and blue. She's good enough to be your baby's mother, and she's good enough to vote with you. She's good enough to give you old Abe Lincoln. She's good enough to give you Grant and Sherman, Robert E. Lee, and Washington too. She was so true, she gave them to you. She's good enough to give you Teddy Roosevelt, Thomas A. Edison too. She's good enough to give you Woodrow Wilson. And she's good enough to vote with you.
So yes, as Leif said, at the time, it was absolutely, right in line with what was culturally popular, these very sentimental songs. These had, sort of taken root, especially after World War I. There was a lot of very, sentimental is the right word for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something now where it's probably impossible for us to even look at this song without rolling our eyes, which, it's one reason why I wanted to include a little bit of a recording, an early recording, but then you can see a contemporary singer, there's no way to deliver it except for, with some separation from it, naturally so. Just looking at this quickly, it's another, here's a list of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
No man is greater than his mother, no man is half so good. I think, as Lee was mentioning earlier, this was, part of the trend of, one of the tax, you would see the suffragists take many tacks. One is women are taxed, and they should have the vote in the way that, the country was founded on that very idea. Others that, women have a greater moral purity, so they should vote and influence, which of course that same idea was used by the anti-suffragists as well, which is, yes, women are so pure, we can't clutter their pure minds with the dirt of politics. So let's go on to the next bit here. So it's really well, what can be said about this lyric? She's good enough to love you. She bears your troubles. She kisses away your tears. Um,
I also
and
love the word bear there as a nice she's not just bearing your troubles, she's literally bearing a giant trouble, which will be your child, right?
yeah, and later on, she gave you a link. She gave you all these men, etc., etc. She's
Mhm.
good enough to warm your heart with kisses when you're lonesome and blue. She's good enough to be your baby's mother, and she's good enough to vote with you. And it's yeah. So looking as a song structure, it was like, in terms of, yeah, well, there it is. It gives this, and here's the conclusion.
And
Uh, you know,
when
as absurd as it is now.
this is kind of unusual in that this song has a long title, right? So we were talking before about very short phrases, and the other two songs had very short titles. But this one, so the phrase "she's good enough" is the one that's repeated a lot. I just want to go back. So she's good enough. She's good enough. She's good enough to do this. She's good enough to do that. She's good enough to do that. She's good enough to be your baby's mother. So that leads up to the biggest, most important thing, that she's good enough in that whole chorus. She's good enough to be, but really the greatest thing that she's good enough to be is this person who bears your child. So isn't she good enough to vote with you? And
And
again, noting the husband is the audience, right? Can't she vote with you? I mean, maybe she doesn't go on her own to vote, right? Or vote her own way, but she'll go with you and she'll just have a vote with you.
yeah, it's interesting. It does play on that sort of she's good enough, sort of in that sense of someone being obliging enough. She's obliging enough to do this, and it's playing on that, good as a quality. And it's yeah, there it is. Um,
And
so
oh, just one other
yeah,
thing here. Since this is the chorus, as Rob said, this is where the title is, and this song incorporates both using it at the beginning in the sense of repeating "she's good enough," and then it uses the very full title only once at the end, so it's leading up to the biggest crux of it. But also because it's the chorus, it's also musically the part that you want to sing, right? It's that musical hook. She's good enough to warm your heart with kisses, and so we would remember that. We would remember that at home. That's going to make me want to sing it. That's going to make the family want to play it. So therefore, this is how music makes you feel a thought, right? So eventually that thought, that idea can work into your brain. You don't even know it. That's how music works on you.
indeed. All right.
Come on,
Are
Rob.
we at yes?
Wow, we have come to the most exciting portion of this event today, in our view. As songwriters, we feel that the songwriting part is the most exciting. So we get to now write a song together, which, oops, I went to the wrong slide. There it is. We're going to write a protest song together. And we are going to use the ideas that you came up with all along the way today, if you are so willing. But what we'd like to do is, and I'm going to stop sharing, we'll just sort of move back out of this for a moment. What we'd like to do is we will walk you through this, we'll do it all together. But what we'd like to do is start with that central core idea, like we've been saying all day today. What is the title idea? What is the title of this song? And that'll guide us. And so when we move along, we're going to start with that title, that one phrase. And just for the heck of it, let's say that title is going to be the first line in the song, right?
Yeah. So if you shared in that first exercise before that, what's on your sign, you can share again, or if you've thought of something else. But let's see some in the chat, and we'll pull something out, and we'll show you how you build a song from one line. And I think we're going to write a 4-line chorus, correct?
Right. We'll
Yeah.
write a 4-line. In the interest of time, I know everyone was prepared to write a 12 verse
Yes.
protest song. But
yes, I think so for now, and just give us that, whatever that first line is.
throw it in there, whatever that slogan or like kind of t-shirt slogan. For the sake of ease too, we'll make this an actual protest song. So it's sung at the rally. It's a song of persuasion. So we want to make this song be an attempt to persuade our audience through this title line. And some of the other ones that we had seen before for the rally songs
Mhm.
would work nicely. Any of these are great. Can everybody see these or just panelists? I see some.
So I think if you choose panelists and attendees, then everyone can see it. Women for our community, yeah, let's do it together. Save the earth.
Save the
Nature
Earth.
schools.
Nature schools, nature rules, so ban plastic from our ocean pools. Wow.
Yeah, like that.
Song, Joanne Hardy, you're moving too quickly for us.
Great. The earth is ours forevermore.
Hmm.
Cooperate for our future. Clean water, clean air.
Mhm.
Yeah, and at this moment, you don't need to worry about rhyme. It's the idea, so it's you're not having to think about the whole lyric right now. It's just whatever that title is. What is the thing that means the most to you? Immigrants welcomed before, now and again. Cool.
Hmm.
Keep our country strong.
Mm-hmm.
Justice for the earth, justice for the people. Mm-hmm.
These are all good.
And if you've thought of one, keep thinking. It's something too. It's like a lot of times when we're working together, we'll, make a whole, they start to flow. We are all one. That is all about. Yeah, leave is one jumping out to you.
I was thinking we could actually go to if we think about the immigrants idea, we have here immigrants welcomed before, now and again. But as a lyric, that word welcomed might be a little tricky. I wonder if we could massage that a little bit and go with something like immigrants before, now and again, or something like that's sounding rhythmically like it could work nicely. We have new ones idea.
Save the trees, they help us breathe. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting with the immigrants welcomed. There is a thing like when Leave and I are working on lyric, when many lyricists work on lyrics, you actually work on them, speaking them aloud, because again, the difference, one of the major differences between lyric and poetry is that it's meant to be sung. So it's how it fits in the mouth. And sometimes we're like, ooh, this word is like, can we get that word? So it's no more fences, only gates. Interesting. Immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants make us stronger. Yes.
That's working.
Yeah. Immigrants make us stronger. I think that is
got a theme around immigrant ideas here. So let's go with that.
So why don't we pull that? And I'm gonna jot on paper, and I'm gonna.
Sounds great.
So
Rob will build it on his notepad. So what have we got for our title, Rob? Immigrants.
So it's going to be Immigrants Make Us Stronger, and I didn't catch who did that, but
that was Linda.
Yes, Linda. So congratulations, Linda. You're the first one here. So the next thing that Leave and I typically do is when we have a title, we're like, yes, that's the title, that's the core thing. So there's sort of two phases. One is we generate, this is going to be something where we have a list of supporting ideas. So we're going to do the kind of chorus where the title comes first and the lines after are going to support that idea, almost like a little mini essay. And earlier when we were talking about, using like Post-it notes, there's an interesting thing. Sometimes we'll be putting Post-it notes on the wall because it forces you to have only that much. So thinking about like a sentence or a phrase which is about that long, immigrants make us stronger.
Mhm.
What are other things? Yeah, so here we go. There's some things on here. We are all immigrants. Welcome to the table. We can't do this alone. Neither can you.
Yeah.
Immigrants do the work no one likes to do.
Immigrants.
I'm going to grab that.
That's great.
What is that? Immigrants do the work no one
Likes to do.
likes to do. Okay.
And we also have welcome to the table. We are all immigrants.
Immigrants, they feed us.
Mhm.
Was that
What-
welcome to the table?
As American as pork fried rice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, Dale. These are all great. Immigrants, see, these are, yeah, the specific detail. How do they make us stronger? They feed us. They do the work no one likes to do.
What's the one? Welcome to the, oh yes, welcome to the table.
Welcome to the table. They are our doctors, nurses. These are great. Keep them coming, everybody. These are, so we're giving reasons here how immigrants make us stronger. That's our title. They are scientists. That's great. There are doctors, nurses, scientists too. Da 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 da. Immigrants are me and you. These are the ways Rob and I brainstorm.
What's interesting too is you can see already, like if we were going to write a full song with multiple choruses, we would be like, okay, great. There's going to be one which is all about job titles, and there's going to be one about food, and there's going to be, so you start to see. And what is good is like when you're brainstorming like this and like with little post-it notes or things that you can move around, you don't get tied down to something which is sort of written all on a piece of paper. It's ideas that can go here, that can go here, and they can be rearranged. Diversity enriches. Yeah. Love that.
Bring new ideas. Yeah, these are all great. And then, so right now we're working on just getting these ideas, right, Rob? We're just
yeah. So I think, and we'll scroll back in the chat and you can continue to put things in, but let's move on to the next phase, which is that we find a rhythm. And we're back at our title, which is Immigrants Make Us Stronger. And one of the things that Lev and I often do when we have the idea is like, what is the rhythm inherent in a title? For instance, it's like, you know, the way that you can emphasize different words. You know, what is, and the two most important things here, it seems to be immigrants and stronger, right? So we want to, and we just sort of say it, immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants make us stronger. So we're going to pick a second line, which has a contrasting rhythm. And so I'm going to just take the second one that I jotted down, which is immigrants do the work no one likes to do. So we have immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants do the work no one likes to do. Maybe we'll throw a that in there. Immigrants do the work that no one likes to do.
So that's a different rhythm, right? So
yeah, so we're having, hunger. Immigrants. And what about if we change immigrants in the second line to they? Immigrants make us stronger. They do the work no one likes to do.
Or we could even longer. Immigrants make us stronger. Yeah, I'm hearing how many immigrants make us stronger. They do the work.
Actually, you know, let's keep immigrants in that second line. You're seeing us like, immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants do the work no one likes to do.
Good. So we've got that little tiny rest in between. These are all great ideas.
Yeah, it feels like that second line will condense, but let's this is a first draft for now. So we've got those two pairs. That is a pair. So we've got and let's take just a second more with this. Immigrants do the work. What if it's no one else does? Like no one, it's a really great phrase that no one likes to do. That no one else will do, maybe. Immigrants do the work that no one else will do. That no one likes to do.
Well, let's keep it as it is for now.
Okay.
And, in the interest of time, we're almost there. We have another few minutes, and then we will take your questions, and we're almost building, so
Yeah,
immigrants.
so immigrants make us stronger. So that line 3, so we've got line 1, which is immigrants make us stronger. So skipping ahead to line 3, something which starts with immigrants, ba.
Oh, I
So
love, here's one that kind of, immigrants built the nation.
immigrants built the nation, perfect.
Joanne Hardy brought that to us. Immigrants built the nation.
So we've got immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants do the work no one likes to do. Immigrants built the nation. And then we've got immigrants, something, me and you, something, see us through.
Different. Someone had one before about a point of view. They bring a different point of view. We could do.
Yeah, I'm scrolling back looking for a point of view.
Yeah. So we need
they are really me and you. Ooh, yeah.
But
Thank you.
They're really
me and you. So yeah, let's split it into that. Immigrants, something. They're really me and you. Immigrants are the immigrants make us. Immigrants make us.
Immigrants built the country.
Yep, we actually have one, Catherine, that's almost the same. We have immigrants built the nation.
Yep, there we go. Immigrants are the backbone. Yes, we had 2 ideas there, Denise and Charlotte both. Immigrants are the backbone.
I like that. Yeah.
And then what was the last one?
And
they're really me and you.
Really, the last one is they're really me and you.
Yeah, so immigrants are the backbone. They're really me and you. We got it. So here we go. Immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants do the work that no one likes to do. Immigrants built the nation. Here we go. Immigrants. And we can't do it together, Leave, because I think the lag is.
Yeah,
weird.
I forgot about the delay. Sorry, Rob.
That's all right. That's right. Your turn next. Okay, here we go. Immigrants make us stronger. Immigrants do the work that no one likes to do. Immigrants built the nation. Immigrants are the backbone. They're really me and you. Hey guys, we wrote a song in like 12 minutes.
Congratulations, all of the attendee. You all your ideas contributed. That is
and there's a good point here too. It's like Dale has got a good point, which is be careful not to marginalize the people who were enslaved, not immigrants who also built the nation. And it's an excellent point, and it's something too where, you know, and of course we're tossing this off in 12 minutes, but it's something, especially when we're writing things, we've actually gone through this in our show right now, where we are creating specific characters with specific points of view for that very reason, so that we don't generalize, so that we don't sort of lump everything in. So it's great that that was brought up.
Thank you.
And it's a really good thing to keep in mind.
And actually, Rob is right. Just the last point about the current musical we're writing. One of our suffragists is an immigrant, a Polish Jewish immigrant from Krakow. And so we're very concerned about not, as Rob said, kind of lumping her into kind of a mass, speaking for kind of mass of her, of other immigrants like her. But instead, she has a unique perspective in this show. And so we're building that emotional core of her character.
So Karen had a question, which is there a way to scratch out a melody for this? If we had 20 more minutes, we would have a tune for this. And actually, the way that you can see how this starts to flow, and so that what we would end up doing next, if Leave and I and all of you were writing this together, we'd jot this down on a piece of paper, and usually I go for a walk and just start repeating it. And what's really amazing is that the melody starts to come out. And just to say quickly, my process as a composer, and Leave is also a composer, by the way, which is one reason why we work very well together, is that everything is built on the human voice. Like many composers might sit down at a piano, but you know, I always try to come up with something where the words sort of give rise to the melody comes out of the words. So someday we'll do another fully songwriting workshop thing. So anyway, but as we can see in the chat, there's you know, all of these is it's a very deep issue with a lot of points of view. So, it behooves us all to sort of choose our words carefully. But in terms of, a quick take on how you put it together.
Right. And this is also part of this process too, is to help other people who are not songwriters, children, adults, anybody, really come to see their own power of their own voice. That if everybody can write a song like we just did, then you have the power, you have the ability to have that rhythm and to create your own music and your own phrases and poetry and lyrics. So that's an important thing that we're also trying to show here.
And what's interesting too is that we, went very quickly off what was on the chat, but of course there is the thing about this, even this lyric that we had comes from a quote unquote sort of third person point of view. It's sort of looking in immigrants versus I think this would be a very different thing if we were taking a bit more time and writing it from one character's point of view. As Lee mentioned, we have, a character in our show. So it's something about, if you look back at these sort of rally songs where, as unified as any movement could be, because of course, as we know, there were many, many factions within the women's movement. It wasn't monolithic. But, there's that, which is the difference between, as we know, is like when you generalize about another group versus speaking from your own experience and your own lived truth. So I think even just in that quick take, as an example, it's, it's something to keep in mind. If you do write something, it's always coming back to, your own truth. So
So I
I
don't know if
guess we have just a few minutes of
you wanted to move us to we'd love to hear your final questions, takeaways, and conclude together on our, and I just want to thank everybody, and Rob and I both just had such a wonderful time doing this, and I hope I'm speaking correctly for you, Rob. Did you in fact have a
Yeah,
wonderful—
no, I mean, I think, just to sum up, the whole idea is that it's, words and music together make you feel a thought, and that songs, they endure and they have power, greater than words alone, I think.
Okay, thank you so much. This was delightful. It, I think, opened our eyes to some of the issues that we've been thinking about. And many of the issues that have been raised in the chat about diversity are issues that have been discussed by our past speakers. So
Oh, good.
everybody's gotten the message with this, which is great, and will continue next week. And lots of thank yous in the chat. But we do have a couple of questions.
That would be—
One has to do with, could we write a song or that might change the She's Good Enough song to be something for the Equal Rights Amendment?
yeah, I'd love to ask whoever asked that question to do that. Let's make it happen. I love that. That's a brilliant idea, really.
It was actually Pam Madison asked that question.
That's a wonderful idea. I love it already. When you have it written, send it to Rob and
Get in
me.
touch.
No, I mean, that's a great idea.
Send it to Ollie and we can pass it along.
Right.
Yeah.
There's another question from Karen O'Donnell. She noted that all that medieval imagery from the suffrage period, there's the Prince Valiant cartoon strip that is a very old one, and she was wondering if there's a connection between that cartoon strip and maybe the illustrator.
I don't think so, because the cartoon strip did start later, and of course there was a whole series of different writers. Prince Valiant, I was actually I read that growing up a lot. And I think you can see that Prince Valiant drew on similar sources. There's a lot of, the medieval imagery on this sheet music. A lot of it was this sort of Art Nouveau take on it, because that's what was popular at the time. So I think I think they had similar inspiration, but not the same artist.
Yeah, and I would just make a comment based on one of the comments for language, which was the Lift Every Voice and Sing. And some of you may not be aware that James Weldon Johnson summered in the Berkshires.
Oh,
He was a very close friend of W.E.B. Du Bois because of their joint work in the NAACP. And
mhm.
so that song was written by somebody who lived in the Berkshires. So if you know that, there's a local connection.
Thank you,
Right.
Catherine. That's fantastic. We didn't know that.
Yeah. And let's see. I'm looking for other songs. Oh, in again the song "She's Good Enough." They mentioned Wilson and Roosevelt,
Yes.
but it was all white men. Somebody pointed out that nobody mentioned that Frederick Douglass's mother birthed him, even though
Which
he was.
tells you who they were singing to, all the white men,
Exactly.
so
Yeah. I was
yeah.
actually thinking and I've heard that a number of times now in our research. And this time I was thinking about how it didn't mention not only not women or black women or black Americans, but just any other kind of central figure of women scientists, like, and there were so many great women.
Presidents and generals is who they
Yeah,
mentioned. It was like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
Yes, but important in the sense that Woodrow Wilson, probably at the time that this was written, was not in favor of suffrage, and Teddy Roosevelt had come out in favor of suffrage.
that's
Hmm.
Um,
exactly
so,
the case. Exactly the case. Yeah.
yeah, so working both sides of the street here. Well, which is something to think about with protest songs.
Mhm.
Is how do we do
Well, and
that?
with that in particular, that was, just trying to sell to anybody who would buy it, and trying to,
Mhm.
no matter what side, no matter what your views are, they wanted to sell you that song. And I'm sure none of the proceeds went to the suffrage movement.
No,
I would guess,
they didn't.
Yeah.
That also really is important to underline the point though about audience and context, right? You have to, with any protest song, where you're going to sing it, to whom you are singing it. Those are the key issues, and that's why I really enjoy the video that Rob clipped together. We hear the song as it was then, and then we see the modern interpretation, and you can hear the audience responding and laughing and clapping. That's quite a different response, and it's because of the 100 years that we have between.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm trying to find, Dale pointed out that in the modern contemporary version of the song, they changed the word from betide to beguile.
Mhm.
I think that was just an error on the part of the singer.
Ah,
I think my guess, knowing how these concerts are put together, I would be 98% certain that that's what happened.
okay. But
What about the 99?
The 2% means anything could happen. So
okay. And so I have a final question for us. It's right at 3 o'clock. As you have been working on your play, what are the punchlines for 2 or 3 of the songs that you have written for the play? What are the lines that,
The central titles.
yes, the central
what a
titles?
great question.
That is a
We'll
great
just
question.
close with that question.
I was thinking, Rob, I was thinking about Wheels Off the Wagon,
That's the one. Yeah.
but what's the whole title of that one?
So it's the hook phrase is "Don't let the wheels come off the wagon," and I'll give you a very condensed idea. So our two lead characters, this immigrant who we've mentioned, and this wealthy Boston suffragist who she's working for, have set off on this wagon journey, and the suffragist has decided to take this moment to regale her with the entire history of the women's movement. And there's little cameos from uh, Abigail Adams, Elizabeth Cady Stanton. People keep popping in and out. Teddy Roosevelt, and the refrain is "Keep moving forward, don't let the wheels come off the wagon,
And so
and you'll find the way."
that's meant both literally and figuratively.
And their wagon crashes, and then they have to go to this small town and find their way back, and that's what sets the whole thing in motion. So that would be,
That's a
I
good
think, the first one.
Yeah, don't let the wheels off the wagon.
Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that's a great way to end today. Not letting the wheels fall off the COVID wagon, not letting the wheels fall off the ERA wagon, not letting the wheels fall off this class. So next week, we're going back to a more traditional format with Kathleen Cahill from Penn State and her wonderful book, Recasting the Vote.
I went to graduate school with Kathleen. This is, if this is the same one that I'm thinking of, but perhaps not. Actually, it must be a different one.
Yeah, it
But
could be.
oh my goodness, yeah.
I don't know what her background is, if she had theater in her background. So again, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who participated with your lyrics. This is a bit of an experiment last week and this week with including people in the class in an interactive way rather than just listening to a lecture. And you guys have stepped up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Rob and I really enjoyed this, and it was really, really wonderful to see all the ideas you posted and to see your thoughts and ideas. So thank you.
Okay, we'll see you all next week.